corrosion inhibitors and detergent as well as contaminants from manufacturing that can affect the acidity of finished ethanol fuel. And those components are not eliminated from the sample before the measurement. So our response is subcommittee A is the only one that sets fuel specs, and they requested a method to be developed with the exclusion of CO2 for the measurement of facility. There is no data to show engine performance is affected by the presence of CO2. Moreover, if samples are purged with nitrogen prior to and during titration, the ethanol mass can change and use of the equation for acidity calculation can be compromised. Our studies show purging does not affect the acetic acid concentration in sample masses recorded prior to purging. It is suggested not to include procedure of purge the sample with nitrogen. Moreover, the acidity limit in each country may consider the CO2 contribution, which eliminates the necessity of purge the sample with nitrogen. Our response: number of factors will influence the amount of CO2 present. However, the acidity due to carboxylic acid will remain the same if CO2 is eliminated. This is based on the precision of the method. Standardization of the 0.01 moles per liter sodium hydroxide titrant, item 11.2 and 15.1 in work at work item 24458. It is proposed to use KHP solution to standardize the titrant, which is 0.01 moles per liter sodium hydroxide. However, the metrology indicates that the best way to make the standardization in order to obtain greater precision is to weigh the KHP directly and use water to dissolve it and titrate the solution with the titrant. In this case, the KHP weight is used to calculate the real concentration of the titrant. In order to weigh accurately the small amount of KHP required for standardization, we will need a microbalance, and this won't be cost effective. Our spike recovery studies confirm the accuracy of the titrant concentration following our recommendation. It is important to point out that item 19.1.1 quality control indicates that no data is available for the shelf life of the KHP solution. Our response: it was discussed with Nicole Baldini to editorially add a note on the shelf life. It is suggested to use directly the weight of KHP and not the weight, volume, and the molarity of KHP solution to calculate the real concentration of the titrant sodium hydroxide solution. The third point, minimum and maximum volume increment, item 8.2. Work item recommends a minimum volume increment of 0.05 ml for low acidity samples such as C30 and recommends a maximum volume increment of 0.1 ml. In some studies, it was observed that the increment limits affected the final acidity result. For example, using a maximum volume increment of 0.03 ml and acidity for an ethanol sample is 4.4 milligrams per liter. But if this increment is 0.2 ml, the acidity is 6.2 milligrams per liter. Low values for the increment provides more points for the titration curve, which allows the endpoint determination with high precision and accuracy. It is suggested to change the minimum volume increment for 0.01 ml and maximum for 0.05 ml. So our response is that the ILS precision study and study of recovery of striped samples supports the current recommended parameters. Shown below is a titration curve of a representative 10 ppm acidity sample, which clearly shows there are an adequate number of data points using the method. So as you can see in that endpoint area, there's sufficient data points. 4. Methodology comparison, calorimetric or potentiometric titration. Indicators present in distinct pH ranges in which a color change occurs at between pH 8.0 and 10.0 for phenolphthalein and pH of 7.3 and 8.7 for alpha-naphthalene. So The use of standards based only on calorimetric titration produce different results, which probably explains the variety of limits for acidity that have been established by different regulatory bodies. In Brazil, 10 participant laboratories received 10 comparison items that were prepared with acidity varying from 5 to 15 milligrams per liter. Each laboratory performed the calorimetric MBR, the Brazil standard 9866, that uses alpha naphthalene as an indicator, and potentiometric new method titration with all of those samples in triplicate for calorimetric titration and 4 times for potentiometric titration. The statistical t-test and the two-way ANOVA were applied, and the results shown that both methods were equivalent in the range studied. In work item 24458, it is shown the possibility of use the test method A, potentiometric titration, or test method B, calorimetric titration, without present any statistical study of the agreement between the two test methods, as for example indicated by ASTM 67 D6708 and ASTM D4855. It is suggested to develop a statistical study to compare both methods proposed in work item 24458, or just keep the potentiometric method. The study showed that there is a correlation and it was provided to the voter. And another thing, even though it's not listed, another thing I could say is also that phenolphthalein is much more widely available indicator, so it will be easier to obtain than alpha-naphthalene. Then there were the general comments, and those I presume. Okay, should we? Item? No? Okay. Okay. This negative was voted in subcommittee 6 to be non-persuasive. And the vote was 14, 1, and 6. I would like to make a motion that D2 support the subcommittee 6 action.
Okay, there is a motion to accept the actions of subcommittee 6 and rule the negative just reviewed non-persuasive. Is there any discussion?
Yes. I'm going to suggest the same thing, that section 6, which does the lubricants on this, feed the whole of the negative back to A, and that A, as a whole, look at this a little bit more carefully. I mean, I'm going to support the going forward, but I think that A needs to look a little bit more carefully at the whole thing and understand it fully. Yes? Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Any further debate? Hearing none. Those in favor of the motion to support the action of subcommittee 6 and find this negative non-persuasive, please raise your hand. Voting members. Okay. Proxies in favor, raise your hand. Okay. Those opposed to supporting the actions of subcommittee 6, please raise your hand. Proxies opposed, raise your hand. Abstaining, raise your hand. And proxies abstaining, please raise your hand.
The committee votes 44 in favor, 0 against, 10 abstaining, in support of the subcommittee to uphold the action.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Scott. Okay, that concludes all of the action items and approval of subcommittee reports. So it brings us to item 12.39, other business. Is there any other business for the main committee today? Hearing none, we'll go to 12:40, and I'll announce that the next meeting of DO2 on petroleum products and lubricants will be held December 6, 2012, the Norfolk Waterside Marriott, Norfolk, Virginia. I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. Second. Thank you, everyone. We're done. It was very nice to see you.
Where seem to have lost my friend, the people I was with. We came up here to the ASTM meeting. They said that they were going to be recording, and there was a little bit of a hoorah about it, but Bell Stars and attorneys, so we got to go ahead with recording, and I showed up a little bit late, but I did get the end of the meeting. So in the future, if you want to go to an ASTM meeting, which is a public event, you are allowed to go in and record it or stream it, as I just did. So thank you for watching Occupy SF TV, and peace and love. Have a nice day.